Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle Kramer, the CEO of the Earth and Spirit Center, and I'm joined today. I'm upstairs and Will is downstairs by Will Hunter, our retreat director and program manager. Hello, Will.
Hey Kyle, how you doing?
Good, good, good. Well, I'm excited about this conversation for lots of different reasons. I want to talk about you and your background and the course you're going to be teaching soon and the new clever um, uh, hardware and software that we have that's going to help you broadcast this course out a bit further than just in-person participants. So
Yeah,
I'm
very exciting.
yeah, well, you are not new, not so new to the Earth and Spirit Center. You joined the staff in the in June of 2024, and I would love for those of our listeners and viewers who are not that familiar with you to just hear a little bit about your background because it's very interesting and it has set you up to do a course like this, set you up quite well for that. So can you maybe share a little bit about some of your like personal and professional priorities and where you've been that led you to employment at the Earth and Spirit Center?
Yeah, well, just briefly, I visited the Abbey of Gethsemane as a senior in college, and that moment was really important to me because it opened my heart and my mind up to contemplative spirituality. So I ended up going to graduate school and actually did my master's thesis on the contemplative spirituality of the Desert Fathers and Mothers, which I'm sure we'll talk about more. And then I went off to join the monastery myself and was about 5 years a monk in Collegeville, Minnesota. I spent a year as a hermit at New Camaldoli Hermitage in Big Sur, California. And really important for this course that I'm about to do, I also spent a couple years as a wilderness guide, taking middle school and high school students who were experiencing mental health crisis on extended backpacking trips.
Interesting. Well, I know that you, as a retreat director here at the Earth and Spirit Center, have continued to work with middle and high schoolers because we have an extensive program of day retreats, not long backpacking expeditions, at least not yet. But um, but you've got all kind of wonderful experiences you've shown folks here on our 27-acre property. So I'd love for us to talk about this course. As you said in your self-introduction, you have plenty of background here, both academically and I guess personally or vocationally, having lived so many years as a monastic yourself. Um, why don't we start here? What is wilderness spirituality, and is that something only for monks and hermits or those who live in um, national forests? Well, tell me a little bit more about wilderness spirituality and this idea of the desert fathers and mothers. Who are they and when were they?
Right. So typically you'll hear people talk about desert spirituality, and they can be referring to a number of different things. They may be talking about a spirituality based on some of the passages from scripture where people are wandering in the desert or going to the desert for some kind of test. But they might also mean a spirituality that arose from the experience of the first Christian monks and nuns in the deserts outside of Alexandria in Egypt, was the most important center for early Christian monasticism. And since then, a lot of people have used desert spirituality to refer to the tradition that arose from the Desert Fathers and Mothers. Um, a little bit about the Desert Fathers and Mothers. So they were at a really interesting point in time in church history where they saw the end of what some people call the age of martyrs and saw the beginning of a new configuration of church and empire. These early Christian monks and nuns were not totally comfortable with the new configuration of church and empire. So many fled to the deserts
And when you
as
say
a
the
sort
new
of refuge.
configuration, you mean like that the church and empire got a bit more cozy than they would have wanted.
Absolutely, yeah. So Constantine either had a vision or a dream where he saw a symbol that he was supposed to fight under. It was a Christian symbol, and if he fought under this symbol, he would be victorious in battle. And of course, that's how it worked out. And then eventually, Constantine tolerated Christianity for the first time. It was officially tolerated before it had been persecuted. And then eventually it became the official religion of the Roman Empire.
Okay, so these are the Desert Fathers and Mothers are, let's just say, um, uh, those who may not be comfortable with the status quo of politics and social arrangements. So they go out for this more radical kind of existence in the desert. Well, Louisville isn't the desert, as far as I last checked. And while we have woods around, it's also not the wilderness per se. Tell me about what wilderness spirituality looks like for our day, age, region, etc.
Yeah, so this is part of why I have chosen to call it wilderness spirituality rather than desert spirituality. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that most of the wilderness that we know in this area isn't desert. And in fact, historically, like they'll talk about the Russian deserts. There's no deserts in Russia, it's forests. And so desert spirituality really is a wilderness spirituality. But I also wanted to call it wilderness spirituality rather than desert spirituality because if I want to bring it into the present, I want to have a contemporary take on wilderness spirituality. And while we may not all have access to big wilderness spaces outdoors, we all have a wilderness inside that is worth exploring as well.
Yeah, I wonder if there's at least in my own mind, there's a connection between wilderness, which you may think of as like a geographical construct, and wildness, which
Absolutely.
is certainly part of wilderness, but can also, as you say, be part of one's own psyche. And I mean, we are all still um, uh, animals in the best sense that we're not completely domesticated beings.
Right. And because we're animals, we do need to go outside. We do need to spend time in wild spaces. But that's not the totality of the meaning of wilderness spirituality. There's also these inner wildernesses that we can explore.
Yeah, so let's talk about this class. This is and I'll rehearse this at the end as well, but this is a class starting the end of January, January 30th. It's going to run on Thursday evenings, 3 weeks, 90-minute
Right.
sessions. So what do you hope to share with participants in those 3 weeks? How are you going to invite them into wilderness spirituality?
Yeah, so our first session is going to focus on the psychology of the Desert Fathers and Mothers. I'll give a little bit more information about who they are, a little bit more information about what's happening in church and empire, because that context is important. And then we'll dive into a psychological framework that we can use to relate the wisdom of the Desert Fathers and Mothers to the wildernesses of our own experience. So that's first session. Second session, we're going to talk about the technological society and the wilderness. So to sort of set the stage for what is the contemporary setting in which we have to live and move and have our being, and how does technology, not just in the sense of having gadgets, but also in the sense of this totalitarianism of efficiency and the totalitarianism of the means, separate from sort of the ends, the goals, the purpose, the meaning, what that means for our spiritual life, and then how wilderness can help us to address the contemporary setting that we're in. And then finally, the third session is going to focus on practices. And I'm really excited about this because I'm going to give a little crash course in wilderness survival. And then that's going to be our framework for talking about these wilderness spirituality survival practices that we can all do even in our own homes.
Okay, this is interesting. So, lots of questions for me, and we're already making this video too long, but God help us. So, one question is just in terms of thinking about the audience or the potential audience for your class. Obviously, the Desert Fathers and Mothers that you speak of historically, I mean, they are Christian monastics,
Yeah.
and that's your background and experience. Is this a course that would only be useful or appealing to those who have familiarity with or sympathy for the Christian tradition, or is it broader than that?
It's much broader than that. The way that the early Christian monks and nuns imagined what we might call salvation today, to use Christian terminology, they imagined it less as some kind of God zapping and making something happen, and more in terms of living according to nature. They got this idea from the Stoics. We also see this idea in Taoism, and that's really the approach that I'm going to take from the Desert Fathers, is that this is about living according to nature. I'm going to use some Christian language because we're working with the Desert Fathers and because that's sort of my first language in spirituality, but this is for anybody who is interested in living according to nature.
Okay, okay. Well, and that last phrase is a good segue to my the second part of my question, which is, if in your third session that focuses on practices, you're kind of using this framework of wilderness survival. I know you have a lot of experience of trekking through the backcountry for days and weeks on end. That may be unfamiliar to the more homebound of us, or technology bound, or those of us who wish to have a 70-degree warm or cool conditioned space. Is this something that you have to have? Is this the kind of experience you need to have hiking boots and a hunting knife to appreciate, or is this open to folks of all ages, abilities, backgrounds in terms of hiking or not being able to hike, etc.?
Yeah, so we may not even leave this room for the class. I want it to be as accessible as possible. Beyond just offering it in this room, we're also going to be offering this course on Zoom. So I sort of need to have the camera and the technology to be able to deliver the course. So we should be able to do
Oh, the irony, right? Oh, the irony.
That's right. That's right. And we'll talk about those ironies, especially when we get to talking about the technological society in session 2. So yeah, you'll be able to do everything from your home if you wish. It might be helpful if you have a plant in your home or even just some other natural material. We want to get in touch with natural materials, with natural beings. That's going to be a part of what it means to live according to nature. But you can do all of this from the comfort of your own home if you wish.
Okay. All right. Well, that is great. And I guess one final note along the lines of technology, we have this new fancy AI powered camera that apparently, as I understand it, you're using now and can track you as you go around the room. And
yeah, let's see if we can get it to do this. All right, camera, over here now. I'm over here now, camera. There we go.
All right.
The
so if you use the whiteboard, the camera will follow you, and I think it can track participant conversations as well. Well,
that's right.
Well, Will, I'm thrilled about this course and excited for it to run. Again, it's going to start January 30th. It's called Wilderness Spirituality. It'll run on Thursday evenings from 7 to 8:30 for 3 weeks. And you can sign up at the link that will accompany this video or on our website at earthandspiritcenter.org. Anything you want to?
Right. And if you can't wait to hear more, we just recorded a podcast together that I'd like to plug. So find the Earth and Spirit podcast.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you get your podcasts. Earth and Spirit podcast, and one of the most recent episodes will be Will Hunter on wilderness spirituality, and we'll try and include a link to that as well, to give folks a chance to get to know you a bit better in a long form conversation. Will, thanks again, and we'll see you in late January with our hunting boots on or off.
Great. Thanks, Kyle.
Bye-bye.